Video games have become a big part of our society, with millions of players across the world. Over a third of 16 to 49-year-olds in the UK would describe themselves as an active gamer, leading to thousands of games being produced every year. The first ever video game was invented by a physicist called Willie Higginbotham in 1958. The game was called Tennis for Two and stimulated a game of tennis. Fast forward to 1972, and the first games console for public consumption is released, called Magnavox Odyssey. Within the same year, the now well-known game company Archery was founded by Nolan Bushnell and Ted Denby, who then created one of the first arcade games in history, called Pong. Over time, video games and graphics have improved more and more, and today the visuals of games are very realistic, which is part of the attraction in current day. In 1976, a game called Death Race was released. The objective of the game was to run down as many people with your car as possible. The game caused a lot of upset among the public, which led to Death Race later being removed from the market. This was the first sign of violence seen in video gaming. Nonetheless, compared to the graphics and content of today's games, Death Race is actually quite tame. 40 years on, and the video games market is a thriving industry. The evolution of technology has made gaming easily accessible through numerous devices, including consoles, computers, and mobiles. The global games market is currently worth $99.6 billion, which is expected to grow to $118.6 billion by 2019. Compared to the 70s, violent behaviour within video games is now seen as a selling point. Some of the most popular and well-known games, such as Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty, are built around extreme violence. In 2015, the American Psychological Association, APA, found sufficient proof that proved regular play of violent video games can increase the aggression of an individual. However, there was a lack of evidence to conclude the gaming causes criminal violence. Bandura's social learning theory believes that violent behaviour is learnt through both social and non-social interaction, by observing the behaviours of others and copying their actions. Those who are more vulnerable can be easily conditioned and do not learn the rules of society. Therefore, by playing games such as Grand Theft Auto, criminal behaviour is reinforced as a positive behaviour, as in the games you're rewarded for acting bad. These behaviours are then learnt and recreated in the real world. Grand Theft Auto has always been known as a controversial game, and there are many cases in which it is said to be blamed for gamers' murderous actions, including a taxi driver in Thailand who was stabbed to death by his client, Devon Moore, who was taken into custody after stealing a car and then went on to grab one of the officers' guns and kill them both, and most shockingly, an 8-year-old boy who shot his grandmother in the head after playing the game. Game content is rated by the Pan-European Game Information, otherwise known as PEGI, to help consumers have an understanding of the material they are buying, and it is used throughout Europe. A wide variety of symbols are used to explain game content, along with an age restriction. The age restriction is put into place to prevent children and teens from viewing content which is not appropriate for their age. However, although children are the main consumers of video games, they are not the main customer. Video games are usually purchased by the parents for the kids, making games easily accessible whatever the age limit. It is not clear if parents are naive and unaware of how games have different ratings of which each symbol means. Statistics show that over half of parents do not find the labels helpful and do not recognise the labels used. The internet has also made access to 18+ games a whole lot easier to those underage, as games can be purchased online without age verification. This way, parents are even less likely to know what their children are playing and engaging with. Violence is not the only explicit content that can be found in video games. Scenes of a sexual nature are present in many games too. Many creators use nudity or even sexual acts to sell and attract attention to their game, predominantly aimed at males. In 1982, one of the first video games to contain sexual content was released, called Custer's Revenge, where the aim of the game is to guide General Custer to the captured Native American woman, who he then carries on to rape. As you can imagine, the game did not receive a good reception, and many began to protest in order to have the game removed from the shelves. Unfortunately, the media attention the game was receiving caused Custer's Revenge to sell twice as many copies compared to similar games. Rockstar Games created a mini-game within Grand Theft Auto called Hot Coffee. The mini-game allows you to control the main character whilst having sex with his girlfriend. The game was disabled from use, however players found access to it by using hacking tools and software. As consumers actively look for a way to play this game, it indicates that sex and nudity is a selling factor of gaming. Gaming and technology has come a long way from what it used to be, but the visual improvements are not the only ones to be noted. As the internet has become more and more accessible, games have taken the opportunity to also move online. There are many dangers to online gaming, as it can allow you to interact with not just your friends, but also strangers whilst playing games online. And online gaming is not just for computer games. In 2002, Microsoft launched Xbox Live, which meant games were connected to players all over the world, and PlayStation later released something similar. Although online gaming is mostly harmless and allows friends to connect and play together from their homes, there is also a dangerous side to online gaming. The objective of Minecraft is simple. Create your own world using various different building blocks. The simplicity of the game attracts a wide variety of players, both children and adults, and is probably the reason it is the second biggest selling video game of all time. It sounds innocent enough, but recently an older man used the game to create a world appealing to children in order to lure and groom them. The man has now been sentenced for over 2.5 years after managing to convince young victims into performing sexual acts. There are many risks and dangers to video games, especially younger players. However, can gaming really be blamed for the cause of violent behaviour, or is there an underlying problem already? One thing that is clear is that violence and sex are now a major part of video games in today's society, and seeing as games make so much money and are an attractive selling point, this doesn't seem to be changing in the future.